Welcome back, everybody. I'm Alan Taylor. This is Jeff Allen, and we are here on the Pioneering Performance stage. Thanks to Shell for having us, and we have with us right here the 2015 NHRA Champion. Give it up for him, you guys.
Antron Brown, yeah!
Right?
Thank y'all so much.
Oh, man, Antron Brown Racing. And it is Antron for those who don't know. And you know what? First of all, let me just say, again, and I said before we got going, I really love you guys. It just... And women, the men and women of the NHRA Racing, because it's like you guys get it. You get it. You get that the fans, these people that are watching, want to touch you and shake your hand, and you're like the fastest human beings on earth.
Right.
And it's a special moment. And I'll give you an example. I mean, I'm going to give you 10 years ago, okay? Here's my story. We're going to tell stories, okay? My son, Jonathan, who's out here, he's 19 now, and when he was 10 or 11, so about 9 years ago, a guy named John Force and Tony Schumacher had just split up, and John Force comes walking towards me, and I said, hey, my little boy's over here getting his car signed. Tony Petragon gave him a car, and he signed it, and my little boy comes running up to John Force, and he goes, hey, Mr. Force, will you sign this? And he looks down, and it's the guy that used to be, you know, his teammate is now his direct competitor. He holds up Tony Petragon's car and he says, will you sign this? And he looks at it, and John Force looks at me and he goes, yeah, kid, I'll sign it. And he signed it. And I mean, it's like, think of the psychological stuff that's going on, right? But the reality is he cared more about that little boy than all the garbage that goes on behind the scenes. Thank you guys for being that bright, that understanding, that caring about your fans.
Well, that's what it's all about, Alan. I mean, I remember when I was 10 years old, and I went to my first NHRA race. I ain't going to tell you what year it was.
Come on now.
It was 1986, all right? I was at Englishtown, New Jersey at the Summer Nationals. And I was there, and I looked at all my heroes and everything else. Big Daddy Don Garlits let me come into his pit area and sit in his Swamp Rat Hot Rod Super Shops car. I sat in, and he goes, I looked at him that day, I go, Big Daddy, you're my hero. I said, I hope one day I could drive a car like this. He looked at me, he goes, son, you could do whatever you put your mind to. And from that day on there, my dad always asked me, so what are you going to do for a living? I said, I'm going to be an NHRA racer.
Look at that, Grand Champion, you know? 2015, I love it.
He put his mind to it there.
Absolutely.
That's the American dream, is it not?
It is. And, you know, thank God above for all the blessings, but in the right spot, right time, and then I always gave what I want. This is a true story. The way I got into racing, I worked on a race team as an internship. I made an internship up so I could work on it, right, from college. And when I got on that race team, I literally worked hard, and he taught me things, and they invited me back to pay me money to work on that team on my summers off from college. Then I saved that money up the next year, sent myself to drag racing school at Frank Hawley's, got my drag bike license, okay? Came back, worked on a race team. This is how exactly happened. Same day, they go, well, AB, we can't test today. I said, why can't we test? They go, Ricky Gatson used to race for Kawasaki, who was the team rider for the motorcycle team. He goes, Ricky got some sponsor obligations he's got to go sign autographs for, right? I'm like, well, why don't you let me test the bike? It's like, AB, we would, but you ain't got your license. I'm like this, hold up. Reached in the bag, came out, I went, bam, there's my business card. And that's when, I didn't even realize it, but that's when my whole career started, because they let me test that motorcycle, and all the other teams out there were like, who's this kid driving? I was 20 years old in college, and they're like, he can ride that bike. And then that set me up where I went to a new team, and they let me and gave me the job to race their bike, and that was for Troy Vincent with the Team 23 team.
Look at that.
And that's where it all started.
Love it. By the way, standing right over there is Ron Capps. And that big smiling face on that guy, one of the best guys in the world. Tell me that story about your mom and his wife, or your mom and him.
Oh, my grandma.
Grandma, that's what it was.
My grandma loves some Ron Capps, okay? Now imagine this. My grandma never talked about another man besides my grandpop, and he's passed away. And Ron we were at a race. It was Englishtown, And Ron was walking by, and my grandma forgot that I was her grandson, right? Because she went like this. That Ron Capps does something for me. I was like, Lord have mercy. I was like, what you just say? You know what I mean?
It's your grandma.
That's my grandma. And then later that day, I always get Ron in our driver intros. And then Ron told the story to everybody about my grandma. Then he looked over back at me and goes, hey, AB, you could be calling me granddaddy. Right?
This, by the way, is this what you want in people that you look up to? This is the reality of just the depth, the sweetness, the greatness of these people that is just as real as you and your families. I love that about NHRA and you guys. I got to tell you.
Well, I got to tell you a short story really
it's
quick
good.
to add to that. Your grandmother and Ron Capps have something special. My mother would like to have something special with you. You know what I mean? It's just like every time you race, man, I hear all about it. And then I was going to Dallas and I was doing some filming and some other stuff, and she said, oh, no, make sure that you get to see this man. So I want to tell you,
you
big
make sure
shout
you
out
give
to
your
my
mother,
mom.
give her a hug.
I will.
And send my love. But let me tell you something. Your mother's not the only one. Ron's mother loves some AB.
Oh.
Okay? So
AB.
So she comes up, right? And she gives me a hug. She goes, oh, I love you so much. And she kissed me on my lips. And she is the sweetest lady. And she goes, I love you so much. So then next driver intro came up. I had to tell everybody my story with Ron's mom.
Yeah.
Then I looked over at Ron, and I said, Ron, call me daddy.
Antron Brown, everybody, NHRA champion just this weekend. Give it up for him. I love you guys.
We love you guys.
Congratulations, man.
Thank y'all so
Real
much.
quick before you go, tell me about your relationship with Shell and Pennzoil and all these guys here.
Well, you know, Pennzoil came on board, and a lot of people don't realize what we do. When they see us go those big mile an hours, they say, you run for 4 seconds down a track wide open. I mean, if you ever YouTube, you see my car flipped up end over end, right?
We've seen that.
Well, a lot of people didn't realize that was actually an oil malfunction in our car that caused that. So in that sense, we're looking for a serious partner at Don Schumacher Racing was just about performance. It's about safety. And something that we need a partner that can evolve with the performance of our race car. And then when we were looking and we teamed up with Shell and Pennzoil, there was no other person that can make it happen like they done.
What he's saying is, when you're going that fast at 10,000 RPM, 10,000 horsepower.
Yes.
10,000 horsepower.
How many RPMs,
Yes.
by the way?
We actually go about 9,000 RPMs,
Okay.
800.
But nothing can fail. If it does, end over end and everything, the world changes.
I've been end over end twice,
Yeah.
upside down at over 320 miles an hour because you scuff a piston or because a rod bearing gets pushed out. Because what happens is when you make that much horsepower and we build that much heat, you need something that's going to withstand and lubricate to keep everything working right.
Motor oil
It's
matters.
not like you
is
have
what
a
you're
radiator
saying.
or anything. So
No,
yes,
absolutely not.
You gotta keep
Give it up
clean.
for Antron Brown, you guys. NHRA.
Thank you so
Antron,
much.
the champion, 2015.
AB. All right, AB.
AB's
thank you,
in the
man.
house. Thank you so much, man. We got to take a selfie for my mom.
All right.